Welcome into Flag for Discussion, episode 88 for Tuesday, August 4th. My name is Furbode Merkazi, here as always with Jace Hatfield. Jace, we are back. I feel like I've started every show this summer with "we are back," but that's because we've had so much to do. But I'm proud to say, as of today's show, it was a great summer, but the weddings are done, the bachelor parties are done, the honeymoons are done, the long trips, the fun trips are done. It was a great summer, but we're glad to be here. Flag for Discussion is back to being here weekly and soon to be bi-weekly. We've missed so much, but thank you for everybody. We had a really good July in terms of the numbers of downloads and listens. So I appreciate everyone who's listened to the best of episodes, but I'm just so happy to be back, Jace.
Yeah, no disrespect to summer, but I think this is the best time of the year. It's the August weather, the summer busyness is slowing down, and then more importantly, college football is starting, the NFL is starting, and then I know it's not a baseball podcast, but we're big baseball fans. You know, kind of the trade deadline was today, the crunch time of the season's coming to the wire. We got playoffs. So it was a lovely summer. We're both married now. We're husbands, not to each other, but to our lovely wives. And now we get to talk college football in August. It was 70 and sunny today in Chicago. So life is good.
I'm really glad you had to clarify that. To be honest with you, this is the time of the year that all of a sudden, I don't know, I feel like my mind doesn't let myself get uber excited yet, because I know there's still a few weeks until college football kicks off. But it's like, once the trade deadline starts rolling around in baseball, it's like, oh my God, the media days have already happened. Teams are having their individual media days. They're taking their pictures. Information's coming about their uniforms or whatnot. Football season's here, folks. It's about to be here. I think last Sunday was the last Sunday until the end of the calendar year without any football. So it's, like you said, we had a wonderful time, amazing time, doing amazing things, life-changing things for both of us this summer. But now we get to do our second loves in life and talk college football. And that's what we're all here for. Let's see if I can get this right for the first time in 4 weeks. Make sure you are following us on TikTok at F4 discussion. Oh, wait, no. TikTok is flagged 4 discussion. Twitter is F4 discussion. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, at Flag for Discussion spelled out. Also on YouTube at Flag for Discussion spelled out. We're going to be hitting the ground running in just a short while in terms of all of our content releases and everything. Podcast was going to turn into 2 times a week once the season rolls around. But today, Jace, we were making the rundown earlier, trying to figure out what to talk about. And, I think it's best if we just do a poo-pourri of a show. There are so many topics that we just haven't talked about. We missed while we were out. And I think the best thing to do today is just to go down this list. And you tell me what you want to discuss. If you have something, a hot take or whatnot, some of the stuff's going to be funny. Some of the stuff, hopefully all the stuff's entertaining.
I think we start at the top here, because my curious question is Kyle Whittingham playing chess, or is he just did he just ruin any hope or hype that he had on the Michigan train? So to address the situation a little bit, Kyle Whittingham was asked about in context was he was asked about Michigan State and Ohio State. His response to specifically his rivalry with Ohio State, he said, "I've learned how intense that rivalry is and how important that game is. Hate is a strong word, but I want to win that game as badly as anybody in Ann Arbor. I just think a rivalry can be intense and emotional without the hatred factor. I don't think there's any place for that personally. I think Ryan Day is a good person. To sit here and say I hate Ryan Day, I'd be making crap up, because that's not true." He's gone on to say he has a good relationship with Urban Meyer. For those of you unfamiliar, Urban Meyer was a head coach at Utah, and there was a lot of very healthy handover from Urban to Kyle Whittingham, as Urban kind of turned that program from a bottom feeder Mountain West to what Utah kind of is today, and Whittingham just ran with that. So they have a good relationship. Obviously, Ann Arbor and Michigan fans do not like Urban Meyer, and they do not have a good relationship. Same with Ryan Day. So the immediate reaction, as you can all imagine, I immediately went to Reddit. I went to the Michigan football Reddit thread, because I want to go see what people say. And it was exactly what you think. We're screwed. Why are we waving a red flag? All that kind of conversation. But I'm thinking, is he playing chess? Is he trying to lull Ryan Day into Michigan won't be as bad anymore, and try to lull them back into like sleep, and then they're going to come out with hair on fire, because he's setting himself up for that, honestly.
I don't. That's actually a really good way to put it. My first reaction to this was, well, that's going to piss some people off. And then my second reaction was,
Yeah.
Kyle, I remember, like, all due respect, Kyle and our team were big rivals in the Pac 12. And especially towards the end of the 2010s when Mario Cristobal was the Oregon head coach. And don't get me, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like there was genuine hatred from Kyle towards Mario. Like, I feel like when Oregon played Utah, they wanted to not just beat Oregon, they wanted to stomp Oregon. And like just making some aggressive calls right before halftime, taking Britton Covey, taking that kickoff to the, what's it called, to the house. I feel like Kyle's been in rivalries with hatred. But I guess in this position, maybe like you said, he has some sort of endearment towards the Ohio State program because his mentor coached there for so many years. The thing that's funny to me is like the like this rivalry itself. Obviously, there's hatred on each side. We saw senators getting into it a couple years ago, trying to ban flag planting. We saw like a full on fight on the field. It's definitely not like a rivalry that doesn't include hate. But I do wonder if like some coaches like Kyle, do they have that? Are they past the point of hate of like, it doesn't matter if I hate them if I can't beat them. So I need to focus on Michigan. I need to focus on figuring out if we have a quarterback. I need to focus on our special teams, our defense. It's been such a hell over the last couple of years in terms of the upstairs adults in the room at Michigan who haven't been adults. Maybe he's like, I just got to be the adult in the room. I don't know. I knew this would piss people off.
Yeah, it's, if we're being honest, it's probably objectively the correct take and opinion of
Right.
like, you can like hate a team in a school, but like to truly hate the individual, like someone like Ryan Day, who's never wronged Kyle Whittingham, would be a little weird behavior. As a like if you introduced me to a new friend of yours and I just hated them on the spot, like that would be weird behavior. So I get what he's saying, but in the context of your brand new coach at a school who is a part of maybe the biggest rivalry in North American sports, just something you just don't say, keep in the back of your head. It's like a Ted Lassoism almost that he's trying to bring into like the game, which I don't know if this is the time or place to
Yeah.
do that. But I don't, the sentiment's there. Like I see what he's trying to say. And I do think, to answer one of your questions, as fans, we don't have to prepare for Ohio State's defense. We don't have to prepare for Washington's offense. We don't have to worry about our O-line injuries. All we get to do is watch the games and then just produce fun content that entertains us for the next 6 days.
Yeah.
So like obviously fans, we have the hatred because we're the ones in the trenches of social media, going back and forth or at bars with friends, whatnot. Whereas these coaches, like you said, they do spend so much time and effort focused on their team, their executions, their game plans, that I don't know if they have room left to actually like give energy to hating the way that as fans we have a ton of room for that. So that could be part
Well,
of it.
I think, I mean, the real reason that this sparked a wildfire is because Jim Harbaugh and Ryan Day did have, you could sense it, like they didn't like each other. Those programs, when both of those coaches were there, and they were there together for a very long time. Even before Ryan Day was the head coach, he was still on staff at Ohio State. It's not like he was implanted the way Kyle Whittingham was at Michigan. So he understood it. He understood that like this is our biggest rival. It doesn't matter. Both of these programs in their facilities are like, what are you doing today to prepare for the game? Like it matters a lot. And I think the Ohio State Michigan rivalry today feels like how the early 2000s Yankees Red Sox rivalry did. A collection of players on both sides and coaches who've been with their respective organizations for such a long time that like that is part of their identity. And that's the same thing for fans. Like you're an Ohio State alum, you're a Buckeye, you hate the Wolverines. You're a Michigan alum, you hate the Buckeyes. And that's completely fine. That's why it's sparking an outrage. But you said it too. It's objectively the right call because it's not that only that fans don't have to prepare for Ohio State's offense. Fans don't have to prepare for Julian Sayin or Jeremiah Smith. Fans also don't have to face the media after the game and look like a fool based off of what they said before the game. like, like
Yeah,
if
great
Kyle
point.
Whittingham's anything, he's a veteran coach who knows what the hell to say, and he said some outlandish things and create fun things in front of the media before. But he's also very buttoned up, and he has a plan. He has a mission. He knows what to do. And I mean, you could also say the joke is you took a coach out of Utah, took him to Michigan, and expect him to hate somebody. Like you brought the wrong clientele in for that.
I don't think I have much more to add on Kyle Whittingham. This could be a great opportunity for like a Ted Lasso promo. So maybe Apple TV, you've got the new Ted Lasso season coming out. Maybe try to throw like a Kyle Whittingham in there because he's trying to be a peacemaker. In a league where there's not much peace right now in the college football world, I feel like there's just been a lot of animosity. We haven't played a game yet, so this just adds fuel to that.
Do you think if they did that, Kyle would have to grow a mustache, or he would have to shave the beard?
He would need to, ironically, because he's friends with Ryan Day, he would have to then go to Ryan Day and ask for his Just for Men jet black so he could use it. Because I think Ted's got the nice dark stash. Kyle, unfortunately, is a few years beyond the nice, luscious dark hair. He's still looking handsome, but the hair color might not be up to par with Ted Lasso. So he could maybe hang out with his buddy Ryan and get some of that Just for Men from him.
This might be a crazy thing to say, so tell me if I am. But I my last point on this is, I wonder if not that rivalries like this are the thing of the past, because they're definitely not. Like on the field, both of these teams, both of these coaching staffs want to destroy each other. But a lot of times, though, that animosity was built because recruiting was just recruiting. It wasn't mainly financially based. It was like you telling them why you should come to Ohio State, why we're such a better school. And the second you come here, you are entrenched. You are almost brainwashed with the hatred of Michigan. I almost wonder, like, with the sport becoming a little more transactional, is that part of like a general consensus of fans and players saying like, "Oh yeah, I hate them on the field, but I'm not gonna hate the person." Like, I don't think just because they're wearing Buckeye red that they're a bad guy.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago. It was safe to say nobody that played football for the University of Michigan was ever going to play football at Ohio State, right? Like, no way they're using their one transfer chance and they're going to sit out a year at Michigan and go to a big rival. But in today's world, you very well could end up at a rival. I believe it's happened a handful of times already. I don't have the names on file, but I've seen it before.
Oregon's had
so you do
multiple
kind of have
from
to protect
Washington.
it. Yeah, you do kind of have to protect your image a little bit because the possibility of playing at a rival is just so, and it might not even be direct. Like you might not go Michigan, Ohio State, but in today's world, you could go Michigan, Oklahoma, Ohio State. So you do have to keep some peace or uphold some image that's worthy of these schools picking you up, especially schools like, if you're a wide receiver, you don't want to rub Ohio State the wrong way and just ruin your chance of going there. So that's a good point. There is a little bit of transactional work probably going on, kind of like how in the real world, don't burn your bridges when you leave companies. I think this could be almost a similar thing for these high school or college football athletes.
I mean, bottom line, it's a massive rivalry. Kyle Whittingham probably just doesn't have hate in his heart, and he's buttoned up. That's like, I think everyone from on either side of it is probably just making too big a deal out of it. He just doesn't hate Ohio State, and how could you ask him being an Michigan implant year one? Moving to the ACC for the second topic. At ACC Media Days, it was revealed that the ACC has a new Duke rule, and it's literally named after them. Manny Diaz made some jokes when he had his presser at Media Days talking about, I been a hell of a month, been a hell of a day. I heard we have a rule named after us. But basically what the Duke rule is addressing is last year Duke finished 7-5 in the regular season, 6-2 overall in the conference. They ended up in a five-way tie for second place in the conference because of the conference record. And Miami, who played in the national championship, was amongst that tie. So under the old ACC tiebreaker criteria, a multi-team tie would go to the combined winning percentage of conference opponents. So basically, because Duke played better teams within their conference, they just lucked into a harder schedule. And to their credit, they beat those teams. But because that happened and their opponent winning percentage was higher than Miami's, Duke won the tiebreaker. They advanced to the ACC championship game, won the ACC title, and 10-2 Miami was left out of the conference title game entirely. But what it's trying to address is that Duke was 7-5 and made the ACC title game over a 10-2 Miami team that eventually made the national title. Basically, what the ACC ended up doing is They overhauled the tiebreaker structure to prioritize resume quality over schedule. If head-to-head results cannot break a tie, the league now moves to a team success ranking via sport analytic rank and sport source analytics. A metric evaluates a team's overall body of work and the strength of record, mirror imaging. The formula is used by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. That's a long ways to say they're trying to make sure a 7-5 team doesn't get into their conference championship over a 10-2 team.
Yeah, when I first saw this, my immediate reaction was just like, I get it. We had kind of a wonky ACC title game. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. But I thought about it a little further, and I guess I have two like main, not takeaways, but two like worrisome thoughts that could come out of this. The first one is we've kind of done this dance before the BCS era. We go back into the 90s and before. When it came to the national champion, we just kind of said, all right, you're the top two teams and you're going to play in a bowl game, and whoever wins that, we're going to crown the champion. It wasn't clean. Obviously, there was a lot of people who said, well, this team that finished third is better, or you had three undefeated teams. How are we just picking out of these, two of these three? Like, this team should be. There was arguments of why that didn't work. So they said, all right, clearly, like, can't win out because nobody can play everybody the same amount. There's no perfect way to determine a champion. So let's bring in a computer that's going to run all the stats, all the analytics, all the data. It's going to tell us who the two best teams are. And then we're going to have them play a championship. We did that for a little while, and eventually people said, well, this is stupid. Well, a computer can't watch games and tell who's actually better. So let's have a group of people then talk it out and figure out who are the best teams, who are the best four teams. Then that wasn't enough. So then it became the next 12. And now that's not going to be enough. It's going to be 24. Aren't we just going down that same path? Isn't this just the step one, is complain about how logic isn't actually enough? And so now we're going to a computer. And then in 3 years, people are going to say, well, this computer doesn't watch the games. So then aren't we just going to have a committee? Aren't we just going to end up with committees determining these? And then when do we go to 4-team conference playoffs?
Yeah, I see where your heart is, and your heart's in the right place. But I will say this is after this comes in after head to head. So what happened in the ACC last year was truly weird. Of like, there was a what did I say, 5-6 team second place tie.
I think it was five teams. Yeah.
I think they're hedging their bets that they're not going to have that happen every year for the next 5 years, where they're going to have to bring in the sports source analytics to try to figure it out from there. You're right. You're like I said, your heart's in the right place. I don't want computers deciding on who's in the college football playoff, let alone in a conference championship game. But I think if we can at least get around the fact that 10-2 teams who are definitely the best or second best team in the conference should be in the conference championship game over a 7-5 team, I think that's a big part. I mean, realistically, like I said earlier, the only reason that Duke was in it was because the schedule that the ACC gave them happened to have teams that won more games than the schedule that the ACC gave Miami. Now, you could say that's Duke played a harder schedule. Yeah, but you also don't know who the teams that Duke played were. Like, you don't know if they played a nobody. Yeah. You don't know if Duke's opponents had soft schedules or not. So that was the wonkiness of it. Like, to their credit, they made the playoff. I mean, they made the conference championship game. They won the conference championship. But like I said, I agree with the premise of what you're saying. I don't know if that's going to be a problem, like a regular problem that's going to be a massive deal going forward.
That's very true. I hope it's not. I hope we don't get to a point where now we get mad at the analytics. I did see someone did the math, and if the ACC could just kick out one member currently, they could then go to a 9-game conference schedule, and then that would give them a scenario where, like, not obviously everyone's not playing everyone, but they could mathematically, like, consistently have you're playing the same every 3 years. You're playing the same group. Everyone's playing the same group of teams. So people were debating. So that obviously turned into, well, who do we kick out? The two names that came down to the final debate were Florida State, and there was no real reasoning behind it other than a lot of people just saying fuck Florida State to kick them out, which interesting. The other one was Boston College, and then people were like, that's not even, like, they don't deserve to be in the conference. But then the argument for Boston College was, well, they've been so loyal. They can't, they can't do anything. Like, this is by far their best chance, so why don't we keep them? Either way, interesting that those two teams were the final debate of who do we kick out.
The Tommy
To
Castellano
same
schools.
colors, maybe it's the color scheme that people just don't like. Okay, my other thought I do want to share about this though is, what is the integrity of sports source analytics? And is there a world? Is it how set in stone is this equation? Like is there a world where big Miami donor is just like, hey, like some intern, I'll slide you $5,000 if you just go bump up Miami's rating here. So my other thought was, how viable?
I don't have the answer to
and
that.
I'm not asking for me, but I'm curious how viable sports source analytics is. They better get some strong lawyers, because if there's one thing we know about college sports, when there is an angle to take that can help your team, someone's going to take it. And this sounds like a new angle. So sports source, lawyer up, protect yourself from anything crazy, because you will get, I guarantee you, they will get a phone call at some point in this contract that will be of shady something.
I'm sure it's going to be, there's always phone calls of like, hey, why don't you help us out here? I not to be the old guy on the lawn for the second time on this topic, but when I looked this up and researched it, it said it does mirror the formulas used by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. The ACC is an ESPN contract, playoff is select ESPN contract. I assume they worked in cahoots to come up with a very similar conference evaluation process. But that's just the logic. I kind of like the cynical, someone's going to call sports analytics. Where do you think go for it?
The joke I was gonna make is, it's gonna, like, the system's gonna glitch and Georgia's gonna make the ACC championship game somehow. It's gonna, like, an SEC team's gonna get in. Texas.
Yeah. Wait, what's Bama doing playing Duke? So Bama's got in getting playoffs somehow. ESPN wants it, man. Real quick, where do you think the hatred to Florida State comes from? Like, they haven't been good outside of that 1 year since Jimbo.
That's a good question. I don't really know. Maybe they were just so dominant in those, like, couple of Jimbo Fisher years. I also think they had a lot of, this is off the record, I don't really know the truth of any of this, but this is just total online rumors I'm spewing here. I know that there was a lot of potential scandals that was going on during the Jimbo Fisher era with illegal recruiting and things of that nature. So I don't know if
he was never the most likable.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea if those are true or not. I have zero intel in any direction, but I wonder if there's some disdain for that. Maybe, like, people don't tend to like cheaters, and that could just kind of have been like, people just wrote them off and then have rooted against them since that. That's why. But
it's one of those things that, like, they're one of the three major schools in the state of Florida, so they're naturally going to get hate from the other two schools, and it's going to build up from the rest of the country, especially when they're down like this. They're kind of just a punching bag. I think part of it is also how they were kept out of the playoff a couple years back, the Jordan Travis team, and they were 13-1. Travis breaks his leg, they get kept out of the playoff. I think a lot of they burned a lot of bridges trying to complain about that, and I think that's probably where a lot. And like you said, Jimbo Fisher is not a very likable coach. Like, I feel like he's like, it was my way or the highway. This is how I want to do it. I want to get to our third topic because this one might take a while. Okay. So it was actually announced today. It was announced today, and we have another thing to talk about after this. But it was announced today that Notre Dame and USC will be resuming their series starting in 2030. So they have a 4-year agreement or something currently planned. The first game will be August 31st, 2030 in LA, then 2031, August 30th in South Bend, 2032 and 33. The exact dates are unknown, but they will be played between weeks 1 and 3 of the season. So basically, I don't know how much of the past you want to rehash. We started out for a while last year when they were debating continuing their series, basically yelling at USC, saying, you're scared of the competition. You need to go play. You need to continue the series. Sometimes tradition means more than anything else. And then I think you and I, we both came around to, well, now it came out that Notre Dame has this deal with the playoff. Now it came out that, like, now it's obvious that Notre Dame, who wants all these things from the agreement, wants to play in October when it's in South Bend, wants to play Thanksgiving when it's in LA, wants to play later in the season. they're asking for all this when they don't have the leverage because they need USC on their schedule. Like they're not in a conference. They need to be able to regularly schedule USC. And then Pete Bavacqua, the entire Notre Dame AD department, kind of just had a very interesting presser, and the series was off. It was off until today when they announced that they're going to resume it. I want to get your first thoughts.
Great for the sport. Love it. You and I do this because we love watching college football, and this is a game. This is like this is one of the rivalries and one of the continuous games that helps me fall in love with college football. And I know that I'm not alone in that, especially growing up in the Midwest. I didn't have any affiliation to these two schools, but grew up in Michigan, a lot of Notre Dame fans. They're on TV, and watching this game was like one of my vivid memories of first watching college football and being like, this is awesome. So selfishly, from a viewer standpoint, I love it. I think this is a great move for Notre Dame. Like you said, they need this game more than USC does in terms of what it means for the playoffs. We saw it last season. Notre Dame
And
just
TV contract.
TV contract. And Notre Dame makes bank from their TV deals because
and they won't
obviously
if USC's
they're
not
on a
on
conference. And yeah, and this is them renewing this is a big up for their deal with NBC. And I just think this is a big win for Notre Dame in all those aspects. I respect Notre Dame for trying to get that game in October, like, the way they're doing it, because obviously USC is going to be at a disadvantage coming to South Bend to play in the winter. And then you going to the Coliseum and Thanksgiving is like great for your players, great for your team. There's no real disadvantage or advantage to be had. So I get why they tried doing it. But yeah, Notre Dame's issue last year was obvious. They just didn't play enough quality teams. And unfortunately, when you don't get enough, you have to win all of the little opportunities you get. They didn't. So this adds to that, right? Now you might be able to lose that Miami game if it means you beat USC. Whereas if you play just one of them, you have to win it. So this helps them. USC, I think this is a net neutral. They didn't need to do this. They would have been just fine playing a Big Ten schedule and then whoever else for the other three. I respect it. They could have easily said no, or they could have made crazy demands. But it sounds like they made enough demands that were respectful for themselves, getting it to be played early in the season. But I love it. I really do love it from kind of all perspectives here.
Yeah, I think, by the way, one of your boys, I owe him a continuance of our conversation at your wedding. We pulled each other aside. We were talking. He asked me why I hate Notre Dame so much. I was like, I don't hate Notre Dame. I just think that
I know
like USC
is.
had the leverage, but Notre Dame thought they had the leverage. USC had the leverage, and like you said, USC didn't have to do this. One of the main reasons they want to make some changes is, for better for worse, yes, they signed up to go to the Big Ten, so they signed up for more travel. Sure, that I'll accept all of that. But now that they're in the Big Ten, now that they have to go to Minnesota and Illinois and Rutgers, they want to make sure the game with Notre Dame that might include another trip to South Bend out far can at least be at the beginning of the year. So one, like you said, weather's not as crazy as it could be, and two, you're able to recover for the long stretch of your conference race. Putting Notre Dame in between Oregon and Penn State is not the most ideal situation for them. They'd probably much rather play Notre Dame after San Jose State and before they play, I don't know, Minnesota. Or even if Oregon or someone's early on, you'd rather play them earlier on in the season, that go through that gauntlet early and finish off the season healthy or whatnot. Like you said, great for the sport. I'm glad that both of these programs came together to do this. It was super important for Notre Dame. We talk about it all the time. They have their own TV deal. It's a massive TV deal, but you think that property would be as interesting if they had a season where they're playing BYU and then a bunch of Northern Illinois? No, you got to include some of those big shot names, and I think college football is just better. And one of the reasons that like the Big Ten move, the Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, that traditionalists, even like myself, we didn't love. One of the reasons that those moves have worked out for college football is you get more games, you get more brand games, you get less of Texas, Baylor, Oregon, Colorado, and you get more Oregon, Penn State, Washington, Ohio State. You get Texas, LSU. Like you get matchups that primetime TV contracts want, and this Notre Dame USC game is right up there in terms of the highest desired property. And I hate making it all about TV, but that's where we always say is like if your sport wasn't if lacrosse was super entertaining and people want to watch it at a million scale, they would be the ones making millions of dollars. Their coaches would be the ones making $10 million to coach their teams. So the TV money is a big factor.
Yeah, it's the factor at the end of the day. Like that, like you said, the money, that's where the money originates from, is the TV deal. That's where it all starts. On the opposite side of teams that are scheduling fun, exciting, big games, with the cancellation of the Indiana Notre Dame game, Indiana for this upcoming season is the only Power Four program with 0 out of conference games versus Power Four teams. So this is interesting. So there's been a big discourse, as a lot of us know, Big Ten, SEC, and there's been a million arguments thrown either direction, some valid, some invalid, whatever you think is fine. But Cignetti had kind of bashed the SEC. He called them crybabies, called them whiny. It just kind of had some verbiage around that air, calling the SEC, kind of calling out the SEC, saying in the Big Ten, we take what we get and we earn what we earn, and if we don't earn it, then we accept it, and that doesn't happen in the South. So now he's the one school that's not playing a Power Four school in the non-con. And I've gone back and forth on my opinion on this. He won that. I think ultimately I'm landing on, he just won a national championship and stomped the crap out of everybody on the way to it. So I struggle to find any way to bash him when that's the case. I'll let you start us off though. What was your initial reaction seeing Indiana being the only team now without a Power Four team?
Well, I think it's just ironic because last year heading into the Big Ten media days, if you remember, Indiana canceled their series with Virginia, and you might say Virginia is not that, like, they would have destroyed Virginia anyways. I mean, Virginia almost made the playoff, almost made the ACC championship game last year. Like, they're a solid squad, and they canceled it to play a nobody. And Chris Cignetti was asked about it, and he goes, well, we want to kind of mirror the SEC scheduling setup, SEC scheduling structure. We want to play nobodies too. So I do think this was kind of planned. Like, I assume, I mean, not the Notre Dame cancellation, but I do think it was kind of like, if Chris Cignetti had the choice, he's like, yeah, I'd rather have tune-up games. And that, to be honest with you, that's the bigger discussion. Like, that's still where college football is. Like, if the playoff just judged you on conference record and conference, like if the eyeball test was only on the conference, if the records were only on the conference, then teams would schedule a little bit harder in the non-con. Or if there was more lenient rules in terms of getting into the playoff based off of how many losses you have out of conference, I think teams would gladly schedule the Texas of the world, like Ohio State has done. Teams would gladly schedule the Oklahomas of the world, like Michigan's done. Like, teams would gladly schedule bigger teams. It's just right now there's no incentive really, other than for the fans, which is unfortunately fans year in, year out, are the last group of people within the sport to be considered by the decision makers of the sport, even though the fans are the reason that they get paid the money they do. Like, I wish we could get more of these games. I wish we could get more week one, like SEC Big Ten games, but it's kind of just like there's no incentive right now. I mean, I just, like, the fifth time I brought him up, Oregon's playing Oklahoma State this year. That's a P4 team, but we saw what they did to them last year. They weren't really a P4 team. I don't know. It's just there's no incentive to play P4 programs right now. But I did think it was really ironic.
Yeah. It's hard too, because teams look so in today's era, you can look so different so fast. Like, exactly, you said Oklahoma State last season they were horrid. They were arguably the worst Power Four team in the country last year, and it showed. Like that, like Oregon made them look like they were a JV team in like rural Indiana. Like they were horrible. And this year, like, they got an entirely new coaching staff, pretty much an entirely new roster, and now people are like talking about them being a dark horse to win the conference, their conference. People are talking about them as a dark horse to make the playoff. Drew Mestamaker is talked about now as a potential Heisman, and that is a complete 180 from the team that they had last year. And like, these games are usually scheduled 5 to 10 years out in advance, these big non-conference games.
Yeah.
And when you schedule them, like when Oregon and Oklahoma State agreed to this, like, people were like, oh, these are two like teams that are consistently ranked 10 to 25. It could be fun, an opportunity for the winner of this game to really boost themselves. Well, fast forward 10 years and now we're playing them. Oregon is in a position where this game's pretty useless for them. If they win, it does nothing to help them. If they lose, it can tarnish them. But on the flip side, Oklahoma, because Oklahoma State stinks now and Oregon's a top 5 program now, that wasn't the case when this was scheduled. So
Yeah.
it is tough because of how fast, teams can flip. You can schedule someone thinking you're getting a cup. Like if you scheduled Indiana 10 years ago for today, you would think, oh man, free win. Let's just go beat a Big Ten team for fun. Well, now you're playing the defending national champions and probably get your ass kicked. And on the flip side, you could have scheduled Alabama 10 years ago thinking, let's go beat the big bad Nick Saban and really prove ourselves. And then now it's like, oh, we're kind of getting a shell of Alabama. So these games are difficult to schedule. And unless something happens where they start, or we can start scheduling them like 2 years out, it's going to be really difficult to continue playing these high profile games, especially if conferences keep getting bigger and smaller. That just makes scheduling even more difficult, which means these games are going to have to be pushed out further. So hopefully we come up with a solution that makes these games a little bit more important or impactful in terms of playing a good team. And also, just for the sake of logistics, figure out a way to make them a little easier to schedule later on in the process. Because right now they're scheduled 10 years out and you just don't know what life's going to look like in 10 years.
It all depends on the playoff. If the playoff becomes a system where like you are incentivized, and we've said this for every iteration of the playoff over the last 5-10 years, if you incentivize teams for scheduling harder, they will schedule it hard. They will schedule harder games. But if you start punishing teams for losing week 1 to Alabama, or then like they're not going to schedule that game respectfully. Texas had an extra loss. It was against Ohio State last year, and they were making a push to make the playoff. Yes, they lost to Florida. They had a couple bad losses in there, but they were making a late season push to make the playoff. And I guarantee you, they probably would have much rather have played Abilene Christian week 1 to have that extra win on their schedule than have played Ohio State. Because now looking week 8, week 9 is like, shoot, we have no margin of error here. We've stomped ourselves. We've hurt ourselves, sure, but still, like it we chose to play Alabama, not the conference games themselves. I am a little bummed though, and I just as the USC Notre Dame series is back in 4 years, I am bummed that we're not going to get to see the in-state, maybe the start of an in-state rivalry of Indiana and Notre Dame. Like Indiana's finally good. Like it'd be fun to see that spark up, see the hatred start there. That would be great for the sport, but maybe they'll find a way to get that in at some point. I don't know.
It would have been fun. I know a lot of lifelong Notre Dame football fans who switched to Indiana football last year, so it would be
Really?
interesting to see who they would root for if this sparked up as a rivalry. It's because all the Indiana basketball fans just rooted for Notre Dame football their whole life because Indiana football was nothing. But they switched alliances once Indiana football became good. So it would be like if these teams played a rivalry, it would be very fun to see which side they take. You take the team you spent your whole life rooting for, or are you flipping to your school now that they're good? So I do want this
Yeah.
rivalry to really happen, but unfortunately, it's going to be delayed.
All right, next poopery topic. Going back to Big Ten media days, we also missed that in our hiatus. Dan Lanning, Oregon coach, was asked about how close Oregon is to winning a national championship. Now, obviously, you and I have had this conversation a lot more off the air, honestly, than on. But you and I have had this conversation plenty. And Dan's response, I think, was pretty poignant. I think this is a question that most coaches would coach speak it, but they would be like, we're on our way. The only thing I care about is today and how I can get better today. So tomorrow I can get better. So then the next day I can get better. So one day we will get there. Like most coaches dance around it or do coach speak. Dan said, we're close. I know Indiana's an outlier and they've done an unbelievable job, but it takes time, man, to build something really special. I think of coaches in our era that have been able to have success and create success and win national championships. I don't think Kirby Smart did it in his first 4 years. I don't think Ryan Day did it either. Ryan Day did it, I think, in his 6th year. Kirby Smart was right around the 6 or 7 mark at Georgia. Dan Lanning's entering his 5th year. That's why he mentioned the 4 years mark. Oregon entering this season has the 3rd best odds to win the national championship. They're plus 700. They're behind Ohio State, who has the best odds, and Notre Dame, who's the 2nd best odds. They have the 2nd best odds to win the Big Ten, obviously behind Ohio State, and their over/under win total is 10.5. So there's no doubt that they're going to be a good team. do you like we've had this conversation with everyone we know pretty much. And I think the natural consensus is championship or bust. I saw Dan Lanning was asked about that on Part of My Take yesterday, and he didn't dance around that much either. He's like, he didn't say it's championship or bust, but he accepted the premise. Is it to you?
I struggle with the or bust part. I do think that this is rightfully so a national championship expectation season. I think this is the best. That 2 years ago. Okay, let's talk about the last two seasons, and we'll count this upcoming year as the season 3. 2 years ago, Oregon had their third best team under Dan Lanning, and they were 13-0, won the Big Ten, bye week in the playoff, lose in the first round to Ohio State. Okay, last year, second best team under Dan Lanning. They go to the playoff again. They win 2 playoff games, and they lose to Indiana, who would go on to win the championship in the semifinals. This is Dan Lanning's best team that he has had at his time as Oregon. It's the most complete team. It's the most senior-led team. A lot of people don't realize, like, his last 2 teams were some of the youngest teams in the country, both times around. And this year returns a lot of that production. It's finally starting to become a more senior-laden team. You start to have guys with more starts under their belt. The talent is there. The size is there. The experience is there. So I think it's very and this is the third best odds to win the national championship is his best odds going into a season. 10.5 over/under wins is a lot of wins. I think it's fair to say that anything short of a national championship would be disappointing. But I don't think it's national championship or bust in the sense that if they don't win this, they're done. Like they still have they're going to have Sherrone Moore and Brandon Finney, probably the best offensive player on the team, the best defensive player on the team, are still not eligible for the draft after the season. So they're still going to come back. They've recruited top 5 each of the last handful of years. So even if this isn't the team to win it, they're still going to have a very talented roster. They still have Dan Lanning. They still have his coaching staff. So I struggle with the or bust part because I don't think it's like a window program where if they don't win it this year, we have to reset. I still think if they don't win it this year, they're going to probably be in the playoff mix again next season. But I do think that anything shy of a national championship this season would be disappointing. And the facts that we are saying that in his 5th season should tell you all you need to know about Dan Lanning as a head coach. I see people talk about how he's overrated. He's not a good coach. The expectation for this man is that he does something no coach has ever done in the history of the sport, which would be win a national championship in their first 5 seasons as a head coach. No one has ever done that. He would be the first one to do it. And that is the expectation. And if you are expecting somebody to be great, expecting somebody to break a record, it's fair to say they're very high up and at the top of their sport. And it is a tough spot to be in. The expectations are high. Whether you think he's a good coach or not, one of my favorite clips of Rex Ryan is, you know what the best place to be? The best place to be when expectations are high. People like to be on the bottom because, I can come from behind. Fuck that. Like that Rex Ryan quote. The Jets ended up going like 9-7, and that was like the fumble year, and it's pretty funny. I love the video though, but it does, it's going to be a new team. Oregon is going to be a team with a target on their back this year. They're going to be a team that people want to take down. So they're going to have to be ready for that. And I do think it is national championship or disappointment.
I think I'm right there with, I guess, going to what you said, college football is not linear. We say that, though, that's been one of the first sayings of Flag for Discussion since we launched. But how Oregon has basically gone during the Dan Lanning era has been in a linear fashion. Had a solid season year 1, didn't make the playoff. Didn't make the conference championship or playoff. Had a good season year 2, made the conference championship, lost it. Had a great season year 3, made the conference championship, won it, lost in the first round of the playoff. Had a great season, bypassed the conference championship, I guess, year 4 because they didn't make it. But won 2 playoff games, lost in the semifinals. So basically, what we're expecting at this point is, in college football, we're linear. This is Oregon's championship. This is Oregon's year to make the national championship, and the next year is Oregon's year to win it. But college football is not linear. The expectations, for better for worse, for Dan Lanning are amongst, and like you said, you are here for a reason, and that should tell you all that you need to know about the coach. But Ryan Day entering year 4, 5, and 6, when he hadn't won a national championship yet, you remember all the people who were clowning him? I mean, people still do it now, but at least he has a ring, and people normally shut up about it. It's normally just Michigan fans. Kirby Smart feels like a long time ago. He was constantly getting the he can't win the big one conversation until he did. So for me, it's never a matter of this guy can't do something. This guy is not a good enough coach to do. I'm like, if he can build a good enough team, bring in a good enough staff to year in, year out, be 10 to 12 wins, to constantly give him a chance at the door, he keeps knocking it. One day he's going to knock it down. With that said, to me, I don't have a problem to say championship bust. Now, the difference for, I guess, how I'm seeing is I don't think bust means they're going to be bad next year if they don't win it. I don't think it's how we saw Clemson entering the year last year, even though the season went completely awry for Clemson. But we thought, wow, Clemson hasn't been recruiting to the same level. If they don't win it in Cade Klubnik's senior year, they're going to be pretty mid the next, like this coming season. So I don't think it's that Oregon's going to all of a sudden have a 7.5 win total next year. But I also think you build it up towards something. This is the defensive line that Dan Lanning has wanted for a while, and they all chose to come back. Obviously, NIL deals, they all chose to come back. The secondary is finally a collection of, it's not just one Christian Gonzalez. It's 4 guys who are really damn good. And best, I have no problem saying best collective wide receiver room in the country. Really good running backs as long as they stay healthy. My only questions for Oregon this year, I know like Joel Klatt went on a podcast and said Oregon's the only team in the country with no questions. I have plenty of questions about the offensive line. I have plenty of questions about the 2 coordinators they hired. People keep forgetting Will Stein was their OC. He was highly, highly regarded. He's at Kentucky now. Tosh Lupoy, years and years of experience as a defensive coordinator. He left for Cal. They are replacing both of those guys. And yes, they're probably highly talented in Drew Maringer and Chris Hampton in the OC and DC spots, but they've never done that job before. Drew Maringer did it at Rutgers, and he's not at Rutgers anymore for a reason. So my questions are, how's this is it an Oregon offense? Is it an Oregon defense? Or is it Will Stein's offense? Is it Drew Maringer's offense? How's that going to change it? And then the offensive line, Dan Lanning said in Oregon Media Days today, they expect to be rotating 6 to 8 guys in. And it depends on which side of the fan base you are. Some fans are like you, where you're like, that's not good. I would rather know who my starting 5 is. But then there are some fans who, like Dan went on a different podcast just recently and said, our offensive line's elite. Like he was super excited about it. And I think then there's like that faction of the fan base that are saying like, well, if you have the ability to rotate him in other than Poncho at center, they're going to be rested throughout the game. Now, it depends on what side you're on, but my questions are offensive line and the coordinators. If those can be above average, I think this team should, I think not making a national title game is going to be an extreme disappointment.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Those are the questions. I think if you were to deep dive Oregon, those are the 2 true questions that you would come up with. O-line, coordinators, and I'll even take the coordinators a step further because we're Oregon fans, so I'm going to talk about it. I'll try to be brief here. With Tosh and with Will, the obvious issue that they had was when they played a team the second time around, Oregon would try and just redo the same game plan from the first time, with the thought process being, we just need to execute better. Now, the problem is the opponent that they would play, usually a good team, Ohio State, Washington, Indiana, their coaching staffs were more of the mindset of, okay, this is what we did the first time. We should probably try to like trick them and do things different. Maybe we'll come out in this same formation as we did last time, but let's change up the play call or change up the motion, throw them off. The problem is Oregon is we just need to execute better. So what would happen in these second times around, Indiana just says, well, we know Oregon isn't going to adjust or change. They're just going to try to do the same thing better. So let's just plan for the exact same script they gave us last time. And sure enough, they plan for the same script and they dominate Oregon. Ohio State, same thing, dominate Oregon. Washington, same thing. They eke away with a win. What I'm getting at is Oregon had the same issue every time with the same coordinators. The question is going to be for the new coordinators, is it a Dan thing? And are you just going to keep the process of, we just need to execute better the second time around? Because I think if you keep that up, you're going to keep losing the second time around until you can pray that you just never see a team for a second time throughout the season? Or are you going to change? Was that a Will Stein or a Tosh Lupoy thing where they just love to say, let's execute better? And maybe this time around, you're not going to do that. And that's an advantage. So I'm with you. You nailed the question marks. Those are the question marks. If you think Oregon's going to figure it out, those plus 700 odds are not bad at all. And if you think they aren't going to if they aren't going to figure it out, then under 10 wins, that's a good bet. So you got, if you're an Oregon believer or not, you got good bets here too at the plus 700 and the 10.5 wins.
Yeah, as an Oregon fan in general, I feel strange about this year because even with saying the questions, but actually one quick thing, I think I need to take a bit of accountability. I'm always the person that says I don't like interim coaches being hired. I don't like hiring from within unless you go out, you peruse the entire landscape and you decide that the people within your program were the best options. Oregon hired from within for both coordinator positions. That tells me that Dan thinks that they're the best options. That tells me that like Dan thinks it's the Oregon offense. It's not the Kenny Dillingham offense. They're not the Will Stein offense. It's the Oregon offense. The same thing with the defense. I think defense we feel better because it's probably closer to Dan's defense as a defensive coach. But I feel better about that. So I got like that's one of the reasons. That's one of my biggest questions is I don't know what to expect from these coordinators. They're both highly regarded coaches. They both have been at Oregon for years. I don't know exactly, but it feels weird as an Oregon fan and to put a bow on it, going into a year where you're like, all right, it's probably natty or bust because that doesn't happen for Oregon. Oregon's been good. Oregon's been really good, but it's never been like, oh, we might be a class above everyone. There's a chance. Like it's always like, all right, once we're in the dance, how do we punch up to the next class? It's never been we might be the class that everyone's trying to punch up to. Now it's August. We'll see how it actually plays out. I'm not counting my eggs before they hatch. All right, we're going to try to go a little faster with this poopery of topics. The next one's kind of funny, kind of on brand for this coach. James Franklin, if you didn't know, he's at Virginia Tech now. He was in his ACC kickoff media day presser. He said, I think we've won the offseason. We've done the right things. There's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of momentum. And this is the kind of end of that. He followed that up by saying, now we get to go and do what's important, practice, train, and try to win football games. But I think it's just so you and I have had such a funny year of James Franklin. Like we go into it like talking about his missteps as a coach at Penn State, then defending the crap out of him. And now it's like, all right, James, I think it's so on brand to say I think we've won the offseason.
Yeah, it is on brand. And it's on brand for him to just say something that he shouldn't say. And this is one of those things. I really liked the position they were in because at Virginia Tech, you naturally just don't have a target on your back, especially in the ACC play. Everyone's looking at Miami. As we found out, people still really care about Florida State. There's been a lot of talk about Duke, and maybe they're starting to build something. NC State and Louisville are getting a lot of hype and energy. You were in a great spot. You were kind of falling back a little. Dabo Sweeney had some interesting comments over the last month or two that probably made people want to beat them. You had a chance to kind of fly under the radar with a good team and hopefully kind of right that ship. But you say something like this, you come out and you tell people you win the offseason, that just raises the expectations from your own fan base and from people alike. And then also just for other teams, like that's bulletin board material. Yeah, I think if somebody on my team's schedule said we won the offseason, that immediately I'm like, I want to go beat them. I'd like that's annoying. I want to go beat them because as Oregon fans like to claim themselves off-season champions, I hate when they do that because I'm like, now you're just making people hate us. You're just putting targets on our back that we don't need. And saying things like that is kind of similar. It's not a big deal, but it is just kind of like you were in such a good spot. You were flying under the radar. You were building something good, kind of a sleeping giant feel. And then you kind of just said like, you like, let at least go 5-0 before you say something like this. Saying this before a game is played, there's no reason for it. There's no good that comes out of it. Like nobody hears that and is like, oh, I don't know. I don't really see any value in it.
Let's be real. There's plenty of coaches whose entire goal is to win the offseason because that's how they choose to like bring attention to themselves as their own brand as a coach or as to their program. Mario Cristobal for one. I think Sark tries to win the offseason. I think there's some coaches who are loud and some coaches who can be loud and choose to let their work do the talking. Marcus Freeman's for one. I think a lot of people think Notre Dame's a loud program. I haven't heard much from them. Like they're like, oh no, we'll be good. We got CJ Carr. The team's gonna be good. You worried about our running game with the two guys who went to the draft? Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. But James Franklin, for what it's worth, it is on brand because this is exactly who he is. Like he's a promoter, he's a recruiter, he's a talker. But he also kind of has to do that Virginia Tech at this stage. I guess for me is like, if you win the offseason year one at Virginia Tech, is that really telling everyone, hey, we're going to come beat you? No, I feel like for me, it's like, hey, we're not going to be the same old Virginia Tech anymore. You're going to have to try a little harder now. And they have a completely new team. They have a new quarterback. They have a coach who has proven that he can build programs. And I am still a believer that James Franklin, as I was when he got hired there, is going to build that program up to a level that they're going to be competing in the ACC. Is he going to build them up to what Penn State was by the end of it, where they probably should have been in the semi? They were in the semis 2 years ago, and then probably should have been back in the playoff last year if they didn't self combust. I don't know. But I think it's going to be good there for James Franklin. I just think this is just such a funny, like, he's back. He never left. He was just being quiet building the team, but he's back. He put him in front of a mic. He doesn't stop.
He's got his mojo back. I think it was a good reminder that college football is around the corner. When James Franklin's saying some goofy stuff, that's how you know college football is right around the corner. So yeah, he's got his energy back. You're right. It's a feel good thing. Seeing James Franklin make some funny comments is a feel good thing as a college football fan because it means it's the fall, or at least approaching.
Yeah. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They do have an opportunity to start out 5-0. I have no idea what to actually expect from their team. They're playing VMI, they're playing Old Dominion, Maryland, Boston College, and Pitt to start out. So they have an opportunity, winnable games to start out his tenure at Virginia Tech. If they start out 5-0, it's going to be the James Franklin memes are going to come out because after that they got Georgia Tech, Cal, Clemson, SMU, and Miami. As if like he completely squandered the season, as if they've got a gauntlet to end the season. It's fucking nuts.
Wait, what a tale of two halves. That's pretty insane.
Ridiculous. Okay. We're almost done. We're almost through these. Let's save the big one for just two quick ones. Lane Kiffin, no longer online. He apparently removed all social media apps from his phone, said his son motivated him to dial it back the amount of time he's online, and he's enjoying disconnecting. So Lane Kiffin becoming Aaron Rodgers.
Lane Kiffin was, jokes aside, he was a hell of a coach when he was online, when he was doing goofy stuff online. He was putting together amazing offenses and amazing teams. Disconnected Lane Kiffin could just be different. There's a chance disconnected Lane Kiffin goes like 13-0 at LSU, and we're all like, "Oh my goodness, this is happening." So we'll see. Jokes aside, this could be big for Lane Kiffin and LSU. So I'm intrigued by this.
You put an offensive mastermind just straight into the facilities. We're going to see him through that visor on game day. His hair is going all over the place. He's like, what happened? I don't know. I haven't seen anyone in 2 weeks preparing for week one. Yeah, that's a news story. Another news story that we missed. John Summerall loves pedicures. His wife was asked, is there something that we don't know about John, or like he probably wouldn't tell us? And he goes, that's his favorite pedicures. That's his favorite thing to do. Every 2 weeks during the football season, John loves to go get a pedicure. I like that it's down to a scheduled appointment every 2 weeks. She knows.
Like he definitely goes to the same person and like, oh, hey, like every time he comes in, like it's John's appointment. Like this is when John comes in. This is like the second time this past week where someone in the college football world has kind of like, with totally not needing to do it, has just outed somebody. We've got John Summerall's wife outing him for his pedicures. And then we had Jamari Johnson outing Dante Moore as someone who farts in the huddle a lot. So there are some great graphics of Dante Moore that just says farter. This is, I think the life lesson here is be really careful who you let on, like which of your friends you let have a mic. If you are getting married, think about your best man because they do get a mic and they do get to say things. In this case, they could call you a farter. They could call you out for your pedicures. So be careful who gets the mic in your life, because you never know what information is going to leak.
I think our best man had pretty good speeches, though. I don't think
we did. We got lucky.
Thoroughly embarrassed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The Dante Moore thing, I can't believe I didn't put it on the rundown. If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch Oregon tight end Jamari Johnson's interview about Dante Moore. It was nuts. And then the subsequent interview where Dante Moore, imagine being a reporter and being like, I have to ask the quarterback if he farts.
Just if I'm Dante, the second I get back to campus, I'm like, dude, why would you tell them that?
Like, you have so much to say about me. Why do you offer this information? All right. The big story of the last couple of weeks, as if anyone hasn't paid attention, but Michigan AD Warde Manuel is stepping down at the end of the calendar year, so December 31st, and he will be out of a job. But basically what happened, obviously, Michigan paid millions and millions of dollars to a independent law firm to investigate the athletic department. They came back with some findings, and they came to a settlement with Warde Manuel to eventually have him step down. What is nuts about this for all of us is that he isn't fired for what's happened in his athletic department. He is stepping down graciously. And in that settlement, he's being paid a lump sum of around $7 million. He's getting football tickets. He's getting the full at Michigan. If you're there, if you're an administrator or a professor there for 20 years, you get like health benefits lifetime. You get a bunch of these retiree benefits,
free access to golf facilities.
Yeah, he has access to the school golf facilities. He has access to everything. They're covering all of his a lot of his attorney fees, basically. And then the only thing they're asking of him is, hey, for the next 2 years, don't be an administrator or an advisor for a major college athletic program. Like, what?
Yeah,
with all the go for it.
When someone is overly nice to you, there are one of two reasons why. What did you do to me? Why are you being so nice? Or please, God, don't tell people what you know about me, so I'm going to be overly nice to you. This is what feels like it's happening. Like, this feels, if he didn't do anything, this is just a normal AD that had some minor issues. I don't know if it'd go. I think it'd go down much simpler. Like, all right, man, you're out. And he'd be like, all right, yeah, understandable. Or if it really wasn't that bad, they'd be like, hey, I know things weren't that bad, but we just need to move on from you. The name is damaging us. Can we just, we'll pay you out now, and just, we'll let you say you're done and you're good.
Yeah.
But they're going above and beyond to cater to every possible, they're cover, like the fact that they're covering attorney fees, they're making a retirement contribution. He gets unlimited access to university golf facilities, unlimited Michigan sports ticket allocations, and they're letting him say it was a voluntary resignation, the lump sum buyout, and then hey, for 2 years, you just got to stay away from college sports for 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what he knows, but there is, one way or another, someone has infinite dirt on the other one. And this is very much a handshake, mutual, like, let's just part ways. We'll never talk about what we know, and we'll both be better because of it. This just feels like insurance for whatever that is, because it's such an interesting retirement package he's getting for being fired.
If you're keeping track at home, the University of Michigan paid well above $10 million well above like 15 probably, in terms of the payout that they gave to the law firm to investigate this, and the payout that they settled with Warde Manuel to pay him. And by the way, they're paying him the rest of his salary until he resigns at the end of this season too. So basically, to be honest, I don't know if Michigan knows what Warde Manuel knows, but Warde Manuel was the AD, yes, through multiple championships, a basketball championship this past year, football championship. He was also the AD during the Hamburger Gate with Jim Harbaugh. He was the AD during the spying scandal. He was the AD during the Michigan assistant coach having pictures of of Michigan female athletes on his computer, hacking into their softwares. He was the AD under which multiple Michigan staffers have been banned or arrested from college football for the rest of their lives. He was the AD under the Sherrone Moore saga, where it's become semi-clear that he knew what was going on and he was trying to sweep it under the rug for Sherrone Moore. Long story short, the investigation revealed a lot of things that Warde Manuel was, even if he didn't encourage it, he was complicit in a lot of the scandals at Michigan. Now, with the national championship they won, they were trying to hold on to him. Whatever that may be, the settlement offer, you're right. If someone's being nice to you, they probably know you. They probably know that you know something, and they don't want that to be revealed to the world. So that, I assume there's some sort of NDA or something that's signed.
Yeah, there's something going on because it's like the greatest firing package I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add. That I'm curious if anything further will come out. I guess my one last thing that was just funny in the investigation that they did, there was a quote from a quote. So the latest investigation, it was a quote from the original internal investigation that they did, and in that quote was, in the original internal investigation, someone said, we found multiple phones dumped into a pool outside of the football facility. And we asked one of the staffers, and they said, none of those phones have anything to do with the investigation. Don't worry about it. And they took that as truth. So that was from the internal investigation. No idea how that works or what that means. But I think if you're a Michigan fan, it does stink that he won championships and he's gone. But I do think that it's got to be a breath of fresh air to, like, hopefully be done with all of the constant scandals, sagas that come with this university over the last couple of years. I imagine it's just got to be nice to hopefully be done with it and hopefully turn a new leaf and move forward from everything. Because as long as he was there, it was always going to be a problem.
I think if you're a Michigan fan, you are wiping your hands clean right now and thankful. Yes, they won national titles. That's wonderful. That's amazing. That's what we all strive for in with the no matter the sport or program you're running. But I think they're probably tired of hearing. I mean, like, if you want anything to know, if you want any example of why he had to be, I guess, forcibly resigned, Jace just said after the latest investigation. Basically meaning that there's been multiple investigations, and this is one guy who's led this athletic department through all these investigations. They know the
Got a ring
NCAA
in
very
football and
well.
a ring in basketball out of it. So cheating, no cheating, probably worth it in the short run, unfortunately. But neither here nor there.
Speaking of investigations, has not led to much yet, but North Carolina placed their GM Mike Lombardi on paid administrative leave as the university investigates some allegations towards him. As I've read about it, he's just led this culture of fear and just very negative, toxic workplace environment. In the 1 year he's been the GM at North Carolina, and obviously he's like confidants, best friends with Bill Belichick. There's a reason Bill Belichick wanted him to be their GM. They brought him in, made him the highest paid GM in all of college football. He was like, we're going to show the world how college football can become that, how we can be the NFL's 33rd team, how we can do all this great stuff. And granted, we don't know how year 2 is going to go yet, because year 1, they just brought in a bunch of new kids and hope it would work out, and didn't. I mean, just like, think about your football program. Your GM is Mike Lombardi, your head coach is Bill Belichick, and your OC is Bobby Petrino. How do you think that's going to go for you?
Yeah, I'm glad the experiment failed, because otherwise we would have had to do this like 7 more times with old NFL coaches. So I'm failed. Also, I can't remember who had this take. This is not mine, but it was a good take. It was basically saying, had they just fired Bill Belichick immediately after, it was like, all right, he's weird. His girlfriend being involved is weird. He's not a good coach. Had they just fired him and then come out and said, we messed up. We thought this was going to be a good route. Clearly it wasn't. And we're going to clean house. We're going to start fresh. Like, they would have been fine. I don't think anybody, like, the investigation probably wouldn't have happened. People would have been ready to move on. But they just kept, every time they had a chance to back out, they just dug in deeper. They just doubled down on Bill. They doubled down on Lombardi. And then they've hit a point now where it's, okay, now you're being investigated. Now, like, your own employees are coming out talking about how toxic your school has been to work for, and how toxic your athletic department is. Like, why double down? Why triple down? Like, all you have to do is just admit you were wrong once and make the right decision and apologize and move forward and learn from it. And now they're paying the price. But I think it's safe to say that Bill Belichick, 33rd NFL team, failed experiment, did not work out, unfortunately, for them.
I honestly, I just constantly think about it like this. When Bill Belichick came in, he like demanded $13 million of the 21 whatever that North Carolina is distributing to their athletes to their football program. And don't get me wrong, a lot of major college football programs have that amount, if not more, compared to their basketball program, their softball program, their baseball programs, whatever. So that's fine. But in my mind, if you just gave Mac Brown that funding, where would they be? Like, they would probably be in a much better spot today. A lot less scandals, a lot less. My head coach's girlfriend has filed a suit against my university. A lot less, like, dude, didn't Ludacris perform a pregame for
Yeah.
for like their Clemson game they got destroyed in? They had, if you remember, their week 1 game last year against TCU. They go down the field and score, and I'm like, oh shit, Bill Belichick might actually be like this, outsmarting everyone, and then they lose like 52-7 or something. Like, granted, I'm never, you know me, I'm never the guy that's like it's over, because I always think even if there's a 1% chance, there's a chance. There's a 1% chance that all of a sudden they look a little more competent this year. They're in the ACC, but I still don't think it's going to work out. I'm looking forward to the post Bill Belichick North Carolina era, because they have so much potential to be just a really cool university to follow and watch.
Yeah, it's a fun university when they're good. Some of my favorite jerseys in the sport. Entertaining. They've produced some like randomly good NFL talent here and there. But yeah, I'm with you. It's the sport's fun when they're good and when they're frisky. I love those like 8-4 North Carolina teams where you never know what version you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't see it this year. A lot of teams in the ACC got better. A lot of teams in the ACC got serious. I thought Louisville made a lot of good moves. NC State, Clemson, we'll see how they do, but safe to say that they're probably going to be hunting to get back on track. Miami's going to be good. Duke lost some talent, but they replaced it pretty well. Even school like Virginia kind of had one of their better seasons in recent memory. They're looking to repeat. Virginia Tech obviously got better. The Cal, I think, got a lot better. There's a lot of teams that got better. You look at UNC's roster last year, it wasn't that inspiring. It got worse. And I can't imagine all of the off-season drama and the tension has helped in any fashion. I can't imagine any of that has done good for the talent acquisition ability and for the players being focused to go play. There's a real world where this is a very, very ugly North Carolina season, which for better or for worse, for North Carolina fan, you're probably dreading the season. And if you don't like or you're just intrigued by the scenario, it's going to be very entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know if I could say it any better than that. I mean, I just want to see them good. It just bothers me that like a good coach like Mac Brown, who had been begging for resources for the entire time he was at North Carolina, got fired so they could give another older coach, an even older coach, more resources for him to just play a vanity game and try to make it work. I guess the last poopery question for you, Jace, is how are we recovering after the Skubal trade?
Yeah, losing Scooball and Mize, that was 2020 when they made their debuts. That was like one of the most exciting, moments. That was the new leaf of Tigers baseball. That was going to be kind of like building the future, was those two guys. And I remember watching their debuts. They were back-to-back games, actually. And both of them studs. And when I moved to Chicago in 2021, I like went to every Tigers White Sox game, and that was skinny little Scooball, skinny my watching them going to every game in my Tigers gear, just loving it, just all the good things. So the feeling is tough, as you know, when you fall in love with these guys, you've been rooting for them ever since you drafted them. It stinks to lose them, but in the grand scheme of things, probably for the best. Both are, gone after this year. Tigers are probably not making the playoffs, and I don't know if they were going to be able to afford whatever Scott Boras had up his sleeve for Scooball. And with the upcoming lockout, it might just be easier to not sign something to big deal. It sucks. It sucks, but that's baseball. That's life. And you know what? We've got the Max Clark show, the Kevin McGonigal show.
Yeah.
Now I'm focused on that next era of these young guys. So let's go. I'm really hanging on to that, if you can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do, right, as a baseball fan. My team went on a fire sale today, and it
You
was
got a good
probably,
return for some of the people
yeah,
you gave up too.
it was probably one of the best days I've had as an Angel fan in a very long time. Like, if you,
Wait,
hey, for the first time in 12 years, the Angels have a direction. Like I don't know how else to explain that. Like,
Yeah.
let's be bad so we can be good.
When you said at the end, we were talking about North Carolina, and you said, I'm the kind of guy, if there's 1% chance, there's a chance. I was like, that's
Yeah.
the Angels fan in him right there. That's the Angels fan in him talking. You don't be a lifelong Angels fan if you don't have that sort of hope, which is very admirable, and I respect it. And I mean, I'm a Tigers fan. It's not like it's all that much better, but also I know we've had our moments, which is nice.
We had a 98 win year in 2014, and then just all in the middle. I don't know. I don't need to talk. This is whenever this blows up and we start a sister baseball podcast, like Foul Pole for Discussion or something. That name can
ABS
be
for
in
discussion.
construction. ABS. But whenever we do that, we can really break down these moves. But hey, we're all rebuilding, but that's why we have college football coming. If your baseball season's ending poorly, college football's around the corner. Don't worry. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been an hour and 20-ish. So good to be back on here. We're going to, like I said, going to be back to being regular, back to being live. The best of shows are done. All of our festivities are done. Make sure you are following us on Twitter at F4Discussion, TikTok at Flag4Discussion. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at Flag4Discussion spelled out. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Flag4Discussion spelled out. Ring the bell, do all the fun things. Keep listening. This is great. We've had a lot of fun. Jace, you got anything else as a married man? First podcast as a married man. I know at the last one you were married, but like you weren't married while we were recording it.
Yeah, this is the first time I've recorded as a married man. First time the ring has made it on the show. It's been great. I'm very excited. In 3 weeks from now, we're going to be doing picks. We're actually have to pick games, which is very exciting. And then for those of you who are listening on Tuesday, August 4th, I believe around 3:00 Eastern-ish, the preseason coaches poll drops. I know we're not big preseason poll guys in terms of we love what it does for the sport, but the coaches poll is kind of a fun preseason one. See where they stand, see what they think about various teams in their conferences. So something to look out to and something that gets the juices flowing a little bit.
So while we haven't ironed it out completely, next week's show, picks for the upcoming college football season. We're going to try to fit it in under an hour and a half, try to give you our picks for each Power 4 conference, maybe a pick for the G5 teams that might get into the playoff. We'll give you Heisman picks. We'll give you any of the picks. As Jay said, we have our game picks in like 2 or 3 weeks. Dude, I'm so excited for Shot in the Bark again. Are you kidding me? I'm so ready.
We kind of hit a few of those. Like we were, all things considered, we hit those at a clip that was higher than the betting odds that we were placing them at, which is pretty impressive.
The best part of Shot in the Bark is we don't know what our USF is going to be this year. Like, we don't know what that team's going to be this year, but we know there's going to be one that we're going to irrationally love for the rest of the season because they hit on Shot in the Bark for us a couple times. Well, on that note, everybody, we already did the socials. We've already talked baseball somehow. We've talked about 15 different college football topics. I think it's time to get off the show. Thank you so much for listening. From myself, Farvad Merkazi, my lovely partner, Jace Hatfield, this has been Flag for Discussion.